Welcome to the Pursuit of Wealth, where the H is surrounded by abundance. Join us as we navigate and explore health and wellness topics from mindset to deep health to intentions and everything in between. We welcome you with open hearts, open minds, and with the hopeful intention that you'll become a tiny bit better than yesterday.
So when we're talking about the word healthy, I really invite people to explore that word for themselves and understand that it's not a projection word.
Yeah.
It's not something you project onto people. It's something internal, right? Yeah. So I think, for me, being healthy is drinking as much water as I do. You might not think that that's a healthy thing. It's not right of me to project, this is what you should do because it's healthy, right? Because who's to say? We all have different bodies. We all have different body types. We have different goals. We have different minds. We have different ideas. And so when we try to project this healthy persona, I think that's where it gets really confusing for people. Because for every one healthy thing, there's something on the other side that says, well, actually, that's not very healthy. And here's why.
Right. And being able to trust things like food labels. And as you were saying, Tiffany, books and the diet gurus and the TV persona, and this detox and this special tea and that special supplement, and that's all you need. And no, it's never just one thing. We keep coming back to that, right? It's never just
right.
But for general health, sure, if you want to improve your blood work, for example, that's a good goal. That's a motivating goal if you've had a health scare. But
for sure.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's when we use that word to use it more personal than anything else. Because again, like you and I could be standing in a grocery aisle and you say, well, this is the most healthy. And I say, no, Julie, this is the most healthy. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's more important for the language there to understand that this is the healthiest option for me. And this might be the healthiest option for you. Right. And we don't even have to use that word healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because it happens with me and my husband. So yeah. I love, like, we both love having like a shrimp scampi at night, because it's easy. Pasta, 10 minutes. While you're boiling the pasta, you're making the shrimp, done. And the thing is, I love my chickpea pasta, but my husband's stomach can't handle that much fiber. So, and it doesn't mean it's not healthy. It just doesn't work for him, and I need it. So the word healthy becomes really like
skewed. And I could look at your pasta and say, well, that's a processed food. That doesn't belong in my diet. That's not healthy at all. I'm neither right nor wrong. You're neither right nor wrong.
Yeah. And after we're done fist fighting, we'll decide who's right.
Yeah, right. And it's just is what it is. And when I'm talking with the kids and stuff, I really try not to use that word.
Defining what's healthy for you and for me is having the time, and this is like a long-term thing that has definitely worked for me. But having a food journal has helped me so much to know what works for me, what I'm deficient, what I need to work on. And, if I ate what I needed or, because I'm kind of picky on that. But now I truly understand that if I don't hit my fiber goal for the day, I'm not going to feel well. I'm going to feel a little more heavy tomorrow. I'm going to have a little bit more inflammation. And then it also helps me, at least for me, make wiser decisions when I'm planning out my day, choose better foods. There are some days that I thought I was eating my veggies. And then once I have it all written down, I realized, man, I did not eat any veggie all day. And I was thinking I was having a very balanced meal, but then those are the little things. Once you kind of learn, and the food journal has been a huge thing for me, that now I know what I need to pay attention to in order to get to my goal.
Yeah. And how food feels I have my clients work on that sometimes, because when I used to get migraines all the time, it was so difficult for me to pinpoint my triggers. And so I had to start keeping a diary or journal of what I was eating, everything I was drinking, what the weather was like, what activities I engaged in, what my stress level was like, how much I slept. But until I actually, I mean, it was hard to do at first, but once I got into that habit, because I wanted to get rid of those migraines, I was having 2 or 3 a month, debilitating. And so I had to do something. And finally I was able to at least narrow down what potential triggers were. And I think not just for migraines, but for feeling bloated, feeling gassy, getting constipated, having headaches, all of these other things that we just accept as normal, I think.
Yeah.
So I think before we start defining what healthy is, which I think Tiffany did a great job beginning to explain, we all have our own definitions of what that is. And equally so, since we're going to another huge topic that is motivation, we all have our own definition that is in our self contract to ourselves and what motivation is, what those triggers are for us, and how we become an authentic motivation for ourselves or for something else besides ourselves, and how we get to that ultimate um, state of being rather than we have these end goals or to the mountaintop.
Right.
So I'd like us kind of to all explain what our definitions of motivation is and what those metrics are that we base our motivation on. So can we do that together?
Yeah, let's.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Julie, how about you start?
You want me to start? Okay. For me, motivation is what happens after I start taking action. There might be an impetus, there might be something pushing me or pulling me towards a specific goal. But when it comes to just general health, I shouldn't say just general health, but what I want to achieve as far as my health and fitness go, I find it difficult day to day to feel, quote, motivated to just go work out, go prepare a healthy meal or whatever. Once I actually start doing those things, it motivates me to do it again, because number one, I know I can do it. And number two, I start to feel better when I do it consistently. And the better I feel, the more motivated I am to do it. And so in my mind, most of the time, motivation follows action, because motivation will, my favorite saying is by Zig Ziglar. It says, people say motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing, and that's why we recommend it daily. Right? Because so many things depend on our mood and our stress levels and how we slept and our frame of mind and the weather. And, there are a lot of things that we allow to get in our way. And so, yes, sometimes you just have to do it anyway, but you can't rely on motivation for that. Sometimes it involves discipline and focus and an unwavering agreement with yourself. For me, I have my BAMs, we call it, bare ass minimums. So on days when I'm not feeling motivated to do a particular thing, I know that no matter what, these are the things I'm going to do. Right? Like drinking drinking enough water, like getting in 10,000 steps, that kind of stuff. So, and yeah, so that's my definition.
Well,
That's wonderful.
adding to yours is I think it's very important, if for at least in my opinion, what works for me is setting up a challenge. And by setting up a challenge, I have my things that I need to check off my list every single day. And I know, and this might sound kind of, I don't know, dumb at the beginning, but I like having 3 challenges, and I kind of divide them into short, middle, and long term, because you know how after doing something for 30 days and then you feel like, now I can go eat my huge, 1 or 3-foot burrito, and you mess everything up, or you feel like now you're free. The thing is about setting up a goal and setting up a challenge and being in this crazy thing called fitness and healthier world is if it's not sustainable for the long term, as in forever, you shouldn't be even doing it, you know? So by setting up a challenge, and I do like little goals, and then after I got to that, let's say 30 days, I have another goal coming afterwards. And you have to plan accordingly, and have to plan with that little room for error, you know? Because after those 30 days, you might feel great, or you might not feel satisfied with where you are at. And you might have to adjust that first initial goal. But by having that milestone, and celebrating those achievements, that makes everything not easier, but it's just a reason to feel good about what you're doing, and reminding yourself you're doing this because of this, and exchanging all those things in order to feel motivated. Like, for example, you change something in your diet, and then obviously you're seeing some results on the scale. And I am talking about the scale not in a good, bad, whatever way. If it works for you, do it. If it doesn't, please don't even try it. But let's say you jump on the scale, or you try those jeans that they didn't even come halfway up, and now they're going up. That is that trigger of motivation that will, like Julie was saying, it will make the ball keep going. And it's just going to make it a tiny little bit easier, but it's going to remind you why you're really doing this, you know? I'm going to say a personal challenge for me. I love to cook, and I've been pretty good at meal prepping. Um, but I used to meal prep like a buffet style. Like, I do my proteins in one container. Like, I would do 3 or 4 different proteins, and then I would have 2 or 3 carbs and my veggies. And then every morning, depending on my plan of that day, or what I was feeling on eating, I would just get a little bit of everything and just make my meal and leave. But now my time has been reduced by a little bit. So my new challenge has been, I went out and I bought my little nice glass containers, and now I'm preparing like a full meal. And I'm trying 3 new dishes per week. So I gotta say, I did pretty well this week. So
Wow.
Looks
I ended
great.
up with,
Beautiful.
yeah, I ended up with three. I prepared 3 different recipes, and I spread it out like 4 portions per meal per recipe. So I ended up with 12 containers on my fridge, which was amazing because I have more time for my dogs. I have perfect time to go to the gym, train, a little bit more time for myself. And that reward, like, by doing this, I feel rewarded. Even though at the beginning, that challenge was like, my God, I'm going to have to spend 5 hours cooking and na na na. But, I'm doing it on my day off, where on that day, I do have the time to cook. And you're not going to believe it. It only took me 2 hours to make all that.
That's great.
And it has given me 1 hour extra every morning to spend for myself, to go to the gym with, and I can actually stay a little bit longer and practice my pull-ups. And so it's kind of that's the rewarding part that keeps me going. Obviously, the day that I gotta cook, I'm like, I gotta cook again. But then I gotta remember, hey, you've got that extra time during the week, so it's gonna be worth it, you know. So at
That's
least the
motivating.
challenge, yeah. Like I said before, I cook, so you gotta plan, or make your challenge accordingly to where you're at. Let's say you don't cook. Well, how about, instead of eating out 5 days a week, maybe make one healthy meal to take to work, you know? Or if you let's say, if you want to exercise a little bit more and you're walking already, how about walking 10 extra minutes? Or going to a gym and try a new class, or find that thing that interests you to keep you going every day.
Yeah.
Like that. Well, I, for one, would take on that challenge of the 3-foot burrito. I I never
It
back
sounds
down from food
delicious.
challenges.
I
And
gotta
also,
tell
Margaret,
you,
there's never such
I've
thing as
done it.
dumb. You done it?
I've done
You
the
mastered it?
the thing is, in El Salvador, it's not foot. We don't measure by foot. We measure by meter. So it was 1 meter long, and my husband and I knocked that out. Believe me, I couldn't even walk afterwards, but
You're my
I did
hero.
it.
Oh, that's amazing. Big stomach.
Sort of a passenger to your mind, which is a very hard thing to do. You can truly start to begin to see how it drives you, and it may not always be right or appropriate, I should say, because again, I think appropriate is a better term than right versus wrong, inappropriate versus inappropriate. So when we're talking about the language of the mind, I think it's always important to be kind to the voice in your head, because it can actually become a limiting factor, right? And so the more we can understand our own, self so intuitively, the better that will be, because we need to understand, like, when our body senses hunger, right? It tells you it's hungry, and it's going to continuously tell you and tell you and tell you and tell you it's hungry.
And that becomes
Well, that's
a
just
survival motivator.
Yeah.
right. And so that's great when you're in the woods, because it's motivating to go find food. When you're in your home, it's not a very good motivator, right? And it becomes very limiting. If our brain tells us we don't want to go work out, we start thinking about that, and it becomes part of, well, okay, so I shouldn't go work out, and here's all the reasons why I shouldn't go out. And it's when you can push through that brain to understand that this actually is for me, that you can understand that the brain it really does create this limiting factor. And when we talk about motivation, I see motivation, it's really just a human want, right? So if we want to see something, if something becomes motivating to us, we can look at habits. Habits aren't necessarily motivating, although they do have an end result that's usually quite favorable to what we want, because we do them, right? We brush our teeth, probably not because the doctor told you or the dentist told you, because it feels good to have a clean mouth. So there's the motivation to do it because it feels good. And so we can talk, well, I put on a sweatshirt. It's very motivating because it feels good, because I'm not cold anymore. So if we talk about motivation, there's motivation littered throughout our day in various forms. And again, it's truly just that human, like, we want this. So there it is, because there's something on the other end of that. Yeah. Because if you don't experience something, if you can't romanticize it, if you can't feel it, if it's not within you, then how could you possibly do it? And so I think, it comes to that term healthy too, truly it's just about, in my opinion, just setting the intention for yourself.
Right.
There's nothing, if it's an intrinsic, so we talk about intrinsic as being something, within you. It's a drive within you. No one has created this drive. You're doing it because it feels good for you. Sleep, I would suggest, is probably pretty extrinsic, right? Because we go to sleep and we wake up and we feel great. It's instantly motivating to go to bed. When we talk about healthy too, it's really just kind of setting that intention, right? What is it that I want? And I think the more personal you can get with your own sort of desires, because again, motivation, equals desire to a certain degree. What am I trying to get from this or get out of this? If you took it, write down the word healthy and then pinpoint it for yourself, because not only does that allow you to understand it, it allows you to have a plan, because motivation can also be limiting, right? Because if we stop doing it, okay, then we just throw it out the window. So it's more of, I'm going to do this. I'm setting my intention. This is what I'm going to do. If this, then that. If I don't work out today, I will work out tomorrow, right? And really set it up for, because so often I think that we allow ourselves to lie to ourselves. Mm-hmm. I see it all the time, right? I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm going to set my alarm and wake up at 6. No, I'm going to set it to 6:30. No. I'm going to set it to 6:45.
Oh, I'm tired. I'm going to hit this.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'm going to work out. Tomorrow you go to work out. No, I can't today. My sneakers are, they're dirty. My socks are too tight, right? And so we determine all of these little things that kind of push us away. But if we set that intention and really hold ourselves accountable to our intention, because who are we holding ourselves accountable to? Ourselves. If you're constantly setting up a goal or a motivating thing that you're denying, it becomes very easy to stick to that, and you're almost lying to yourself. You might be honest to the world, but if you're not honest to yourself. And so I think it comes down to just setting that intention and owning it and not letting this interfere. Just do it.
Well, and that's, what I love so much about Mel Robbins and her 5-second rule.
Thank you. I was going to mention that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, it ties directly in that, and I wanted you to bring that up because the 5-second rule ties so successfully into that. It's something like waking up or losing weight to taking those actions. So please, Julie.
Yeah.
I mean, I practice the 5-second rule often, but we might not be talking about the same 5-second rule. Like when I drop a whole plate of food, you just kind of scoop it back, and as long as you blow it, it's totally cool. As long as you dust it off, you're good.
You're good. No, Mel Robbins' 5-second rule is about brain science, basically. And because we are hardwired to avoid things that are dangerous or uncomfortable or scary, if we hesitate when we decide we want to do something, that moment of hesitation, that pause, allows our brain to step in the way and find 100 reasons why not to do it, because it wants to protect us. It wants to keep us comfortable. It wants to keep us safe. In that moment of hesitation, you just count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you launch yourself like a rocket, like a NASA rocket, and you just move. Even if you don't feel like it, if you do that, all of a sudden it becomes much easier to take that action and take that step.
I have a saying for every time I'm hesitating too. It's like, just do it anyway. And once you start doing it, you just you feel so good for 100 million other reasons.
Yeah.
Because your body realizes that it wasn't a threat or it wasn't something negative. It's actually something positive that you start feeling good and you just keep going.
Trying to get back into working out in the morning, because that's what I used to do when I was working in the corporate world in the States. And at night, I would set out my workout clothes and pack my gym bag with everything I needed, so that the only thing I had to do when I got up was put on my workout clothes, brush my teeth, grab my bag, and head out the door. There wasn't anything to think about. There wasn't, even my lunch was packed and ready in the fridge. There wasn't anything to think about. I had no reason not to do it because there was no extra step involved. And it took me maybe 10 minutes in the evening to put it all together. And I was able to do that for 11 years straight. And, now I'm not used to that. Now when I get up, because I get up to walk the dog in the morning, he's like the best alarm clock ever. He comes up at 6 o'clock. So now I put my workout clothes on underneath the sweats that I wear when I walk him, so that when I come back to the house, I don't have to go up and get changed, because that one extra step, right? I'm already set up for success. I can hang up the dog lead and go straight down the stairs to the basement because I'm already dressed to work out.
It's funny because they tend to relate getting a dog with motivation and success when it comes to moving and exercising a little bit more, because of how demanding, and you just do it because someone else needs it. But it's funny because when it comes to someone else, you don't even hesitate, and when it comes to yourself, you are always putting up an excuse. It's
for sure. And I think the intention can become the motivation in that, because it's just, again, coming back to that just honest decision within yourself. And you don't even have to point it at, health or, again, what you might consider to be healthy. We don't even have to talk about exercise. I mean, you could talk about it in a relationship setting. If there's some way, I'm going to become a better listener. I want to become a better listener. I am a better listener. And you set that intention, it becomes very motivating to achieve something. You know what I mean? What I'm going to intend, I'm setting the intention that the next time my partner says something that I don't like, I'm going to be hard to offend. I'm just going to walk away from it. And it becomes these tiny little, intents that we will hold true to. If it's stated, here's my intention. And then again, so it's like that experience, right? Your intention equals your motivation to achieve it, because it's something personal and it's something, within you. I mean, yes, there is a motivation where, the four of us are doing this, so we have to show up. That's, that is the motivating piece, because other people are relying on us, right? So we can look at motivation from a work experience, from a coaching experience. If you're on a team, you're going to show up to practice and run down the field because that's your motive. The team is your motivation, right? And so sometimes. No, I was just going to say that, if you can understand, again, sort of that motivating piece, because these other, the goal motivations and maybe like the challenge motivations, people are relying on me for that motivation, those are sort of built in and they're a little bit easier to sort of become or harness or you know what I mean? Because somebody's relying on you. It's a set thing that you need to do. I think when we're talking about more of these extrinsic motivators within ourselves, that's where sort of like these demons sort of lie, because no one's relying on us to do it.
It has to mean something to us, right?
What is the desire? What is the want? And what is the intention towards it?
How do you want to feel?
Yeah.
How about
and for me, I also
yourself
include
to
discipline
stay motivated
as well. And I don't think that has been mentioned yet, is that if we don't have the discipline to make it further than what we allow ourselves to do, then we're always going to be in this comfort zone of motivating to what's comfortable and being happy with what's there. But discipline, doing one more than what we are comfortable doing, that's when the real growth changes. And that's when, though we might feel uncomfortable, if it's weightlifting for Margaret or any of us, or if it's running, 5 extra kilometers than we're normally comfortable with, then that's where we recover. That's where we become stronger, not only in our mind, but also in our bodies physically.
Yeah.
It's when we do something that we thought we couldn't, that's where the growth lies. Not in doing it. It's not just, okay, I'm going to brush my teeth. It's when you push yourself to understand, that's where the growth happens, when you are a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to say, get the fuck up and go.
Yeah.
As David Goggins, he's just incredible because he pushes you to your absolute limit, and he's a motivator, not only for himself because he had to do that from survival, but also now because he knows that's his way forward, and he always pushes himself and is disciplined enough to go further and further and further ahead.
Sure.
One thing that I always think about, because I think a lot, obviously, is our motivations, both, as Tiffany said, intrinsic and extrinsic. To what end? And I think everyone has mentioned that we are motivating to ourselves for our own personal growth, but in different areas of our life, we're also motivated for different things. If it's for a nonprofit, then we're motivated to do work, no matter how demanding it is, for some other good. That completely, I would say, is not for personal growth, but it's for some other cause. Even for health and well-being, I think some of us are motivated for others, whether it's for our families or whether, if it's for social media accounts, you might see many times, is that they're healthy, they look like these body figures, but they might not be for themselves at all because they're this public figure. So I kind of want to bring up that, because what part of your life is motivating for someone other than yourself, but still is a driving motivator?
Well, and you know what, this brings me to, and this is kind of funny, but I've been a big Friends fan since whatever it first came out. And I'm going to bring up this part of this episode, and it was supposed to be funny, but it has always stuck with me. And it was Phoebe and Joey. And Phoebe says, I'm going to do a selfless act. I'm going to set out, my intention is to do something selfless. Here's my intention. And so she says, well, there was somebody on the street, I gave him money. Well, you gave him money, but how did that make you feel? Oh, well, it made me feel good. Okay, then that's not selfless. Then she comes back and says, no, I got stung by a bee. I let the bee sting me so that all the other bee friends would know, and it did not feel good. And he says, well, the bee died, right? So again, it becomes a selfish act. So if we can understand that motivation, intention, again, equals that human desire, I've tried to elicit some sort of selfless act, and I haven't come up with it, because there is a reward. There is something that makes us feel good about it, right? I go into the grocery store, there's somebody who's a little less tall, and they say, can you help me with that? Yeah, and I get so excited to help them. I just want to help them through all the top shelves of the whole entire store. Well, it's a kind of a selfish thing because it makes me feel good, and so if we can understand that and appreciate that we are selfish creatures. We are very selfish, right? And there's way to be, and it's okay. And it's okay, right? We can look at selfish in a vast array of definitions. And I'm not talking about, the actual selfish ones, but we're just talking about ourselves. There's no selfless good deed. So we are selfish because, again, it's that human desire. It's that human want. There has to be some sort of reward, no matter what it is.
Right. But selfish isn't the same as narcissistic or.
No. Those are two very different words.
Yeah.
But selfish can become something quite negative.
Sure.
But if I'm saying, listen, I'm going to be a little bit selfish, that to me is not a negative thing. Like, this is, a boundary, that you may set can appear to be selfish, but it's not at all. Right. There is, again, that human desire, that human connection, that want to do something.
An unmotivator is something that you find joy and pleasure in, but not something that gets you to what you should be doing for your own self-growth, self-betterment, and that leads to more complaints or more excuses for yourself. Demotivator is more of saying, I can't do something, and a demotivator is saying, I don't want to, or I won't.
And those are all...
Do you have a recommendation when it comes to demotivator?
Master Coach Julie?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I used to date a guy who constantly told me, I would say, I'm going to do this. I'm taking this class and I'm doing this event. And he would just say, you can't do all that. You can't do all that. There's no way you can do that. Now, because I am frequently intrinsically motivated, that external demotivator, instead of taking it to heart and feeling deflated by it, actually made me more determined because I was going to prove that I could do it. But a lot of people will take that to heart and just say, yeah, you're right. It depends a lot on your self-confidence and your self-worth. So in that case, in my mind, the best way to get around the demotivators is to just sit back and remind yourself, why is this important to me?
Yeah.
Is there any
what happens
to what they're saying? Sorry. No, is there any truth to what they're saying? And what, if not, what is the truth?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because what happens, like, for example, and I'm going to say a very basic demotivator, because now I'm kind of confused about the unmotivator and demotivator, but I think it's a demotivator. When you have been really good with eating and exercising, and you feel like everything is going or should be going towards where you want to be, and then let's say you step on the scale and you don't see a change, and I come back to the scale, not in a bad way, but it's something that everyone does, and it's the most. And it really shouldn't come down to this, but I'm going to say it because it really comes down to this.
Yeah.
When someone steps up on the scale, or you go to a doctor's appointment and then you see the number, what happens there? Should you keep going with what you're doing even though you feel it's not working? Or how would you battle that up?
Well,
And I think,
I was going to say, I've actually had a couple people dealing with this lately. And what I like to do, again, is to say, what is actually happening here? How, first of all, I need to own it. How compliant, I don't really like that word, but how consistent have I been with my behaviors really? And if I have been super consistent, what else am I noticing? Do I feel different? Do my clothes fit differently? How is my energy? How are my moods? How am I sleeping? There are a lot of other
facets,
factors
right,
involved. And a lot of times the scale, am I kind to myself? Because the scale is usually the last thing to change. And I understand how demotivating it is, but when I'm working with somebody anyway, I try to help them focus on the other things, because we didn't gain weight overnight, and we didn't see the weight go on until other things happened, right? And so other things have to happen first before maybe that. Besides the fact that, if you look at someone who weighs 140 pounds and has 20% body fat, they're going to look a whole lot different than somebody who weighs 140 pounds and has 40% body fat, right? I mean, the weight is the same. And I use my own, because I used to live and die by the scale, and I use my own journey as evidence of that I weigh 3.6 pounds less than I did 5 years ago, but I wear clothing that are 2 sizes smaller.
Yeah.
If I relied on the scale, I'd be just depressed.
And right, and the what ifs of it, right? Like, why am I doing this? And what if I don't work out one day? Move on. Nothing bad will happen, right? And it's just owning that for yourself. And we can't always look to others for motivation, because if I'm only exercising because Margaret's exercising, well, what if Margaret gets hurt? I'm just never going to exercise again. That's not a deep enough goal for myself. It's not a deep enough, it doesn't motivate me, just her, because then obviously she's probably just going to annoy me anyways as she's getting her pull-ups, and I'm not, you know what I mean? It's fine, Margaret, get your pull-ups. That deep understanding of the whys, for ourselves in the house.
Always remember to challenge yourself to stay motivated.
That's right. You are your only truest motivator, and the one that can stick to it all.
Sure. Well, and extrinsic motivation for me, I have a couple of things. I have an accountability buddy, and we check in with each other, and we push each other to excel with our coaching businesses, personally with our, and now, because I do struggle to work out in the mornings, I work out with an accountability video call 3 times a week, and it's fabulous. It's just amazing, because I know they're going to be there, and it drives me to continue to be part of that group. The other thing is, like with my coaching business, I want to grow my business because there's so many people, the people I've been able to help, it's just made me feel so amazing. And yeah, there's that selfishness, but I get such a kick. I get really emotional watching my clients have their aha moments and watching them succeed reaching their goals. I want to do more of that, and my ultimate extrinsic goal for that is to be able to be the sole source of support for our family, so my husband can retire and we can live up in the mountains in Tuscany somewhere.
Thoughts are not facts. And I think sometimes, it's also good to understand who are your motivators, and we have these people in our lives for various things. People might come to me for a health related, scenario where I might become motivating to them. But again, I want them to be motivated for themselves, to set that intention, but I know I've leaned on Julie, a few times, and we have a 20-minute conversation, and I'm off and running with a new vigor and of something, because again, it's that inner demon that's suggesting that I can't do this, I shouldn't do this, why would I do this? Your thoughts are not facts, and I constantly am saying that to myself to understand how limiting it truly is. There's no fact to that, and you reach out to a friend, you reach out to somebody else and say, hey, here's what it is. I don't consider myself a very external, I'm not driven by others' motivation or inspiration, but that's so wrong, because I am.
Yeah. And I,
What is your supreme driver of
For
motivation?
me, it's more, it's more intrinsic, because that's just how I operate, But again, if I'm being honest, of course I look to others for motivation for various reasons. I just went to a functional medicine doctor. That became very motivating for me, because in that piece of my life, I needed something different. I sought it. Okay, and now I have a different sort of motivator moving forward, a different idea, and I think that that's going to happen. But ultimately, it's that intrinsic motivation that drove me there. Literally, I mean, somebody drove me there, right? Like I drove myself there. But something in myself, you listening and being honest and understanding, it drove me to that. And I think that, as much as I'm saying, don't listen to your brain, also, if it says it enough, you know what I mean? Like it's so internal within you. I love to work out. It's not my life right now to give all of this time to my workouts. So I've taken that off the table, and I just work out when I can fit it in, and there's no punishment there. There's no demoralizing conversation that roams around my head. I do it if I can, and I can't if I don't. But I also walk a ton, right? So there's also that piece of it. Like I can look at it and say, well, I'm doing a lot more walking now and my diet's far better. It's all good. You know what I mean? Because it's something within me. It's something that I can't do this. So this is what I'm going to do, and it's kind of like, if this, then that. When summer comes, things are going to change in my life. And therefore my nutrition will change, right? Because my exercise has increased. If I'm going hiking, if I'm going for 10-mile hikes, well, my nutrition surely will change based on that. And so it's all these little motivators, but truly for me, it's more of this intrinsic, I experience it, I feel it, and I just move forward. I'm very motivated internally.
Well, I'm gonna say something, and whenever I'm lacking motivation, or I'm saying, well, yeah, I don't know, I didn't do whatever I wanted for last year's birthday, because for me, my birthday personally, it's a huge thing. Personally, I'm not expecting anything from anyone else, but for me, it's like I get there, and I kind of reflect on how my year was and where I'm at. Like for example, last year was kind of a little bit of the depressing birthday, because it was my 30th, and we were in the beginning of coronavirus, so everything was new and unknown, and we were in a full lockdown. So for me, last year was like it was different. I was just grateful that we were with health and and everything. But for this year, now that we've been 1 year into coronavirus, I've had it already. I survived it, and I'm I've been doing pretty good. You tend to lack a little bit of motivation and say, I'm standing in a pretty good spot, so why would I even do something? But then it's that little moment where you should say, like, if it's not now, when? And I know this is a very cliche saying, but that is something that I like to remind myself. And when we're talking about birthdays, we're not getting any younger. And our body needs more care with every year. We need to take care of ourselves a little bit more than last year. So for Julie and myself, it's our motivation is our birthday, but for Johnny and Tiff, if it's not now, then when?
Exactly. And I will tell you, I can attest as the oldest person here, that it is harder the older you get if you don't keep that consistency up.
It's like when somebody sees an older person outside doing exercise and they say, wow, that's incredible, that person is still doing whatever it may be. And the only logical explanation is they didn't stop.
Yes. We don't stop moving because we get old. We get old because we stop moving.
And when you stop moving, things atrophy. That is just what happens. So, again, we can look at, I love burpees because throughout the ages, because all it does is teach you to get up off the floor.
And that's a huge thing.
How important is that?
It is hugely important. And, you know, I've had my share of injuries and setbacks that have left me not doing fitness related things for periods of time. And it is a lot harder to bounce back because the body doesn't recover as quickly. And
Yeah.
it needs more care and support. And we don't need as much food as we think we need. And we need more movement than we think we need, and so on. And so, yeah.
Are we adding burpees to the challenge?
Ooh,
Let's do it.
let's do it. I hate burpees. That'll be a great challenge.
+1, always.
Okay. How many days out are we?
There's 7 days in a week.
No. Thanks, Johnny. I appreciate that. I got a little lost there. Yeah, right? Also, I just wanted to go back to Margaret when she said she wasn't expecting much. I just got an Amazon wish list with 27 items for Margaret.
I'm 43 days.
I'm exactly 5 weeks.
How many days is that, Margaret? I don't do math well.
7 times 5 is 35.
So we have 35 days and 44 days.
43 days, yeah. So my goal is and has been for.
We're talking about a burpee challenge.
Yep.
How about instead of saying every day we do this many burpees, because that might not be feasible and we might fall off the wagon. What about if we come up with between now and Julie's birthday, we do X amount of burpees? That's
fine. I'm already doing 100 squats a day. What's some burpees added in?
That's my favorite workout, by the way. 200 squats and 200 squats and 100 burpees.
How much weight you put on that for squats?
I'm just doing body weight. I have a challenge going in my Facebook group, and we're doing a 100-day squat challenge. So you add 1 squat each day. So 1 squat on day 1, 2 squats on day 2, all the way through day 100. But since I've done it so many times before and I love squats so much, I challenged myself for the 100 days to do 100 squats a day for the whole 100 days.
And again, work on that idea. And we would love to hear more about this too. If you need help defining that word healthy, or you want somebody else to look at your word healthy, use the Facebook group. We're all about motivating and helping each other and putting each other out there. As a matter of fact, why don't we do that? Why don't we define our health and post it up so for others to see and to see how we come to that process, to understand it?